Last winter, more than 40% of managed honeybee colonies in the United States died. Not 30, not the 15 to 20% that beekeepers once considered a normal, acceptable loss. Over 40%, the worst winter on record. And here is the part almost nobody wants to sit with. Most of those deaths were preventable, and the thing that would have prevented them had to be done in a narrow window in the fall. That window is open right now for about 2 more weeks. What you do in it decides which side of that 40% your colony lands on. Here's the full story. Let me give you the real numbers first, because they are worse than most beekeepers realize, and they change how seriously you take the next 2 weeks. Over the year running from April 2024 to April 2025, beekeepers in the United States lost an estimated 55.6% of their managed colonies, the highest annual loss rate ever recorded since national tracking began. Winter losses alone in that season reached 40.2%. Commercial operations, the professionals with decades of experience and every resource available, were hit hardest of all, losing well over 60% in some measures. This was not a fluke of one bad region. It was a nationwide catastrophe, and it fell on experienced and beginner beekeepers alike. Now hold that next to the historical baseline. Back in 2006 and 2007, a normal annual loss that U.S. beekeepers considered acceptable was 15 to 20%. In less than 2 decades, the normal has more than doubled, and the bad years now reach levels that would have been unthinkable a generation ago. Losing your hive over winter is no longer bad luck. It is close to a coin flip, and the odds have been getting worse. But here is the crucial thing buried inside those grim numbers. The losses are not random, and they are not evenly distributed. Loss rates were highly variable from operation to operation. Some beekeepers lost almost everything. Others came through fine. The difference between them was overwhelmingly about management, and specifically about one thing done, or not done, in the fall. Which means the 40% is not fate. It is a filter, and you largely decide which side of it you land on in the next 2 weeks. So what actually kills these colonies? Because once you know the killer, the 2-week task makes complete sense. Overwhelmingly, the cause is Varroa mites and the viruses they carry. In the recent loss surveys, Varroa was the single most frequently cited cause. And the mechanism is specific and brutal. Varroa mites feed on the fat bodies of developing bees. The fat body being the organ that stores energy, runs the immune system, and above all, makes it possible for a winter bee to live for months instead of weeks. When mites feed on the bees a colony is raising for winter, those bees emerge damaged. Research found that bees which survived Varroa as pupae have around a 21% reduction in flight capacity. They are compromised even when they don't die outright. Then there is the virus. Varroa transmits and amplifies deformed wing virus, and in the failed colonies sampled during the catastrophic loss years, deformed wing virus was detected in nearly 90% of them. The mites peak in the fall, the virus rides the mites, and the winter bees are born already carrying a lethal viral load. A cluster of virus-ridden, mite-damaged bees cannot hold out through 5 months of cold. It dwindles, shrinks below the size it needs to stay warm, and collapses somewhere in the depth of winter. And there is a newer wrinkle that makes this fall more dangerous than falls past. The main chemical the commercial industry has leaned on for decades, amitrase, is now failing. Varroa has developed widespread resistance to it across the United States. Beekeepers who assume their usual treatment is still working may be carrying far higher mite loads than they think. The old reflex, apply the usual strip, assume it worked, is no longer safe, which makes the one step almost everyone skips more important than it has ever been. Quick word before I continue. Everything I've learned about beating Varroa without depending on the failing chemical treadmill, the timing, the monitoring, the natural methods, the whole fall calendar, I gathered it all into the Hive Vault over at daleshive.com. The link's in the description below and on the channel page. This video's free and always will be. The Vault's just the long version for folks who want it all in one place. That's the last you'll hear of it from me. So here is the thing to do in the next 2 weeks. It is not complicated, but the order matters and the timing is everything. Step 1. Count your mites. today or this week at the latest. An alcohol wash or a sugar roll on a sample of about 300 bees from the brood nest, giving you an actual number, mites per 100 bees. This is the step almost everyone skips, and skipping it is how experienced beekeepers with every resource still lost 60% of their colonies. You cannot see a lethal mite load. A colony that looks strong, busy, and healthy can be carrying a load that is already killing its winter bees. The only thing that reveals it is a count, and given that Amitraz resistance means even treated colonies may be loaded, counting is no longer optional. It is the whole game. Step 2. If you are over threshold, treat now. Heading into winter, the level you want to act on is low. Around 2 to 3 mites per 100 bees, and lower is better, because these are the winter bees and they need to be as clean as possible. If your count is over that, treat immediately, because the winter bees are being raised right now, and every day of delay is another cohort of them sealed into cells with mites feeding on them. Use a method appropriate for your climate and the temperature, and, given the Amitraz resistance problem, consider that the treatment you have relied on before may no longer be doing what you think. Monitor after treating to confirm it actually worked. Step 3. Confirm nutrition. Heft the hive, lift the back, and feel the weight. The winter bees being raised right now need good nutrition to develop into the fat, long-lived bees that survive winter, and the colony needs adequate stores for the cold ahead. If the colony is light, feed it now, inside the hive, not in the open where it will start a robbing war. Step 4. Protect against reinvasion. As other colonies in your area collapse from their own mite loads this fall, your bees will rob them out and bring their mites home. The mite bomb effect. A clean count today does not guarantee a clean count in 3 weeks. Reduce entrances on smaller colonies, keep the yard clean, and plan to recheck your mite levels after this window closes. That is the task. Count, treat if needed, feed if light, protect against reinvasion, done in the next 2 weeks, while the winter bees are being raised. It is the single highest impact thing you can do all year. Done a month from now, it is too late. The winter bees will already be made, for better or worse. Let me be honest about why 2 weeks, and why this is not something you can put off until it is convenient. The winter bees are on a biological schedule you cannot pause. The larvae being fed and capped over the next couple of weeks are the bees that will cluster through winter. Once a winter bee is sealed into its cell with mites in it, that bee's fate is set. You cannot fix it afterward. So the intervention has to land before and during that capping, which is now. This is why the beekeepers who came through the catastrophic winter fine and the ones who lost almost everything were often doing the same things, just at different times. 2 weeks early is the difference between protecting the winter generation and missing it entirely. And I want to be straight about the framing of this video, because I am not going to sell you a fairy tale. Doing this does not guarantee your colony survives. Nothing does, and there are hard years where good beekeepers lose bees anyway. But it moves you decisively out of the high-risk group. The 40% is dominated by colonies whose mites were never counted, never controlled in time, or controlled with a chemical that no longer works. Get this right in the next 2 weeks, and you are playing a very different game than the beekeeper who does nothing and hopes. Here are the mistakes that put people in the 40%. Mistake 1 is not counting. The single most common and most fatal error. You cannot see a mite load. Experienced beekeepers with every advantage still lost their bees because they did not count. Do the wash. Mistake 2 is trusting a treatment that no longer works. Amitraz resistance is widespread now. If you apply your usual treatment and assume it worked, you may be carrying a lethal load and not know it. Monitor after treating. Mistake 3 is treating too late. After the winter bees are capped, the damage is done. The window is these 2 weeks, not vaguely this fall. Mistake 4 is ignoring nutrition. Winter bees built on inadequate feed are weaker and shorter-lived. Heft the hives and feed the light ones inside the box. Mistake 5 is assuming a clean count holds. Reinvasion from collapsing colonies nearby can undo everything. Recheck after the window. Mistake 6 is fatalism. Deciding the losses are just how it is now, and there's nothing to do. The variability in the data proves otherwise. Some beekeepers lost almost nothing. The difference was management done in time. Picture next spring on the right side of that number. Back in the fall, in this 2-week window, while the hive looked strong and it would have been easy to do nothing, you counted. You found where you actually stood, not where you assumed you stood, and you acted, knocking the mites down while the winter bees were still developing, with a method you confirmed actually worked rather than one you hoped did. You fed the light colonies and protected them from robbing. You rechecked after the window to be sure. And in spring, while more than 40% of the colonies in the country don't make it, yours walks out of winter alive, clustered, fed, made of strong winter bees that were never fed on by mites and never born carrying a killing virus load. Over 40% of hives died last winter, and most of those deaths traced back to a window exactly like the one you are in right now, a window the beekeeper let pass. You have about 2 weeks. Use them, and you are no longer rolling the dice with everyone else. Now you know exactly what to do. Drop a comment and tell me, did you lose any colonies last winter, and had you counted your mites the fall before? I read every single one at Dale's Hive. And if you want the full fall survival plan laid out step by step, it's waiting in the vault at Dale's Hive. Link in the description. Subscribe and turn on notifications because next week we're breaking down exactly how to read a mite wash and what to do at every level so you know precisely where your colony stands. 2 weeks, that's the window. Now you know how to land on the right side of 40%.